there's always a point in the year where there is an influx of bearded dragon sales and just reptile sales or animal sales in general, and that is this time of year. And just want to touch base on what the actual upkeep of a bearded dragon is and why they are not beginner pets. So what's up, YouTube? So this entire month of November, I have probably sold upwards of 30 bearded dragons. And I'm not bragging, that's no bragging whatsoever. I'm just saying that every time I sell a bearded dragon, I always tell people, hey, this is what they eat, this is what they need, blah blah blah. And a lot of times I forget, but I always tell them after the fact what they eat or what they need and all of that. And that's on me because I do have it on my website. I do have like the care guide and everything else. But sometimes you have to actually tell people. And obviously it's all over the internet. There's research everywhere of what a bearded dragon needs, how much they need to eat and all of that. So all of that is out there. But obviously I'm doing my part to tell everybody. And that's kind of what I like to do. But like I said, sometimes I forget, which is completely on me. So I figured I'd make this video and kind of post it on my website and make it accessible to everyone, even someone that doesn't get a bearded dragon from me. So that's why I want to talk about 5 things or 5 reasons why a bearded dragon is not a beginner pet. And so the first thing is, what is a beginner pet? A beginner pet is something you don't have to take care of every day. You don't have to, pet it. You don't have to interact with it every single day. You don't have to feed it every single day. That's what I would consider a beginner pet. Something that doesn't require any specific lighting, something that doesn't require a huge enclosure that takes up a bunch of space. That is what I consider a beginner pet. And with that said, that's kind of why a bearded dragon is not a beginner pet. So first things first, a beginner pet is not going to be an expensive pet. Bearded dragons, they can cost anywhere from $200 to $1,000 just to set up, and then you can pay anywhere from $50 to, depending on the bearded dragon you're getting, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 if you're getting a paradox, if you're getting a red monster, whatever it is you're into. So at as little as $50 all the way to several $1,000s for a bearded dragons. If you're going the cheaper route and you're getting a glass enclosure from PetSmart, the Thrive Kit or whatever, maybe you're paying $250 for the enclosure and the bearded dragon and everything else that comes with it. But if you're going the accurate route and you're getting a full-size enclosure for its entire life, you're getting a decent bearded dragon that you don't mind looking at, something that's not a normal, and you're obviously getting something from a breeder that offers health guarantees and everything else, you may be already spending $1,000 on a bearded dragon and the enclosure and the setup, because you need lights, you need heat, you need enclosure, you need decor, you need a bunch of stuff that's going to add up real quick. So that's reason number 1. Bearded dragons are extremely costly to set up and purchase. Technically not purchase if you're getting a cheap one, but set up and purchase altogether, it can be extremely costly. Reason number 2, bearded dragons require daily attention. You have to feed it every single day. You got to make sure it's alive every single day. That's kind of a big part of it. You got to make sure that it's eating. Not only are you feeding it, but it's actually eating the food that you're feeding it. You got to make sure you're feeding the accurate food. You don't want to feed anything that's lettuce, spinach, stuff like that. A lot of things that have high water content, those are no good, like iceberg lettuce, stuff like that. Then spinach binds to calcium, and it doesn't obviously make it good for a bearded dragon that needs calcium. So those are certain things that you have to look for. What can you feed? How much can you feed? What should you feed? What should you not feed? And then there's people that like to feed crickets, or people that don't like to feed insects whatsoever, so they're feeding the dried stuff or the little pellets, and that's another topic altogether. Those pellets are trash. Don't ever feed pellets. That's just my opinion. I strictly feed dubia roaches to the babies. Once they get to a certain size, then I'll start adding in like mealworms and superworms and hornworms and stuff like that. But babies, I only feed dubia roaches to, because I don't want them to get impacted by any hard shell worms, or get attached to only eating a certain type of insect. So I start off with dubious because they're not really that boring. They do eat them very well, and they are actually one of the more healthier insects you can feed to a bearded dragon. So with that said, feeding and all of that makes all the bearded dragon obviously not a beginner pet. You have to clean it For me, anyways, I have to clean at least every other day because you feed them one day, like for the adults, you feed them one day, they usually don't poop the next day, they'll poop the third or fourth day. So you're getting to clean them at least once or twice a week. And then with babies, they're pooping every single day, so you're going to clean every single day. So reason number 3 is the upfront initial investment of time that you will actually need for your bearded dragon. And bearded dragons, just like puppies, when you get them as babies, they require a lot of attention. With puppies, you got to take them out. You got to potty train. You got to do this. You got to make sure you're teaching them, training them to do things that you want them to do, and making sure they know they're not supposed to do certain things. Same thing goes with a bearded dragon. With a bearded dragon, the younger they are, the more attention you have to give them. You have to feed them more frequently. You got to make sure their poops are good more frequently. You got to make sure that the enclosure's good, the decor is not, causing them to get stuck anywhere. All of this stuff requires you to be involved from the beginning all the way to about a year, 6 months old to a year, depending on the size of the bearded dragon. After that, they kind of do things on their own. They're, like I said, they're not eating as often. They're not pooping as often. And honestly, the older they get, the more personable they get as well, because you can hang out with them and have a good day without ever having to worry about, oh, they need to eat today, or are they going to poop today, or anything like that. Because, like I said, they usually poop twice a week for me, and they only eat about twice a week for me. So, as adults, anyways, so that means every other day I can kind of just hang out with them, watch them, see what they do. So initially, they are very much an involvement type of animal. You have to really be in their space a lot, and the older they get, the less you have to do. So that is kind of reason number 3 why bearded dragons are not a beginner pet. So far, 3 reasons. 1, the initial cost of purchasing the enclosure and purchasing the bearded dragon. 2 is feeding. What kind of food can it eat? What should you feed? What should you not feed? All of that. And 3 being how much involvement you need with the bearded dragon. So reason number 4 is, how long does a bearded dragon live? Bearded dragons live on average 15 years. I've had some live 7 years. I've seen some live up to 18 years. So on average, they live about 15 years, and that's all right. Which means for 15 years, you're having to make sure every single day that they're doing everything they're supposed to do. That you're feeding them, that you're cleaning up poop, that you're making sure their enclosure is good. Every single year, at a minimum, you're changing the light bulb. So that's a cost that you're going to have to do every single year as well. So that brings me to reason number 5. Reason number 5 is, how much does it actually cost to feed a bearded dragon? I kind of touched on stuff that you're going to have to worry about. How much can they eat? What should they eat? All of that. But what does it actually cost to feed a bearded dragon? You've already done all of the initial stuff. You've already bought the bearded dragon. You've already bought the enclosures and the lighting and everything. But what is it actually going to cost you to feed a bearded dragon every single month for its entire life? From my research and from my experience, I have noticed that bearded dragons cost anywhere from $50 to $100 to feed every single month. Obviously, the younger they are, the more they eat. So obviously, you're probably on the higher end of that. And then the older they are, the less they eat. So you're on the lower end of that. But you're still having to feed greens daily. And even if they don't eat the greens every day, you're going to be wasting greens, obviously. But you have to offer them just in case they do want to eat those greens every single day. Now, if you're thinking about 15 years, 12 months a year, and you're having to feed at least $50 every single month, you're looking at $9,000 of feeder costs from the time you get a bearded dragon to the time that it passes away at the age of 15 and some change. But if you're feeding on the higher end of things at $100 a month, you're looking at $18,000 for feeder costs. And that is obviously a very high cost for anybody to spend. Obviously, if you're thinking about, $18,000 is a lot to spend. But you're spending that over the course of 15 years. So it's not as much as, most other animals. Now, over the course of 15 years, if you're spending $18,000 or $9,000, whatever it is, that's already more to feed a bearded dragon than it is to feed a snake, or to feed a cat, or to feed a dog, honestly. My dogs probably eat like $60, and I have 3 dogs. They eat probably about $60 a month worth of food. Obviously, it could go higher depending on the brand of food, or it could go lower depending on the brand of food, but I spend about $60 for my 3 dogs to eat. I have a little dog and 2 labs, so the little dog doesn't eat as much as the labs, but it all works out. So about $60, $70, I think, is where it ranges, maybe a little higher. But But that's to feed 3 dogs. You're spending that just to feed one bearded dragon. So imagine that. You're going to be spending a lot more on a bearded dragon than you are to feed a dog. And that's another reason why bearded dragons are not beginner pets. And you know what? Let me show you a bearded dragon, and I'll tell you something about this bearded dragon. And you're going to be like, oh, that's a cool bearded dragon, but I don't think I can spend that much money. And I'll tell you something. So this is Zeus. Zeus is a hypotrans leatherback thunderbolt, or super genetic stripe, or genetic stripe, whatever you want to call it. Now Zeus, he was about $700, $750 when I purchased him initially. Now they've become a little bit more popular, so they're costing a little bit more, up to $1,000. Zeus is super cool looking. If you were to pay $1,000 for a bearded dragon, obviously that's an initial cost, but you would get to see something super cool every single day for the entire life of that bearded dragon. There's people out there that spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a dog that they get to see every single day. It's no different. It's the same concept. You're spending more because you like the way it looks, you like the breed, whatever it is, but you're spending more because you want to spend more, because you like the way that bearded dragon is, or you like the way that dog is, and you will enjoy spending time with that particular animal for 15 years. If you're spending $50 on a bearded dragon, you're not getting much. You're getting a gray bearded dragon that looks pretty plain, and from my experience, I have seen a lot of those bearded dragons get rehomed within a couple years, versus bearded dragons that look like this, you hardly ever see anyone selling them. And yeah, he probably saw a female, and now he wants a little bit more attention. But yeah, if you spend $750 to $1,000 on a bearded dragon, you're more than likely going to spend its entire life with that bearded dragon. Versus if you spend $50, you're not going to think the investment's there, and you're going to rehome it, and that's not a life for a bearded dragon. It's not really something that you should invest in if you probably think that in a couple years you're going to get rid of it. So with that said, bearded dragons are not beginner pets, and I think that if you get a bearded dragon, just expect to have it at least for 15 years. Obviously, there's a chance it could be less or more, depending on your bearded dragon, depending on the care you give your bearded dragon. But that's practically the entire video. So if you made it this far into the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that I put out in the future. As always, peace.